Welcome to the Franchise Frontier, the podcast where we explore the evolving franchise landscape, dive into latest industry trends, and share actionable tools and tactics to help you build and grow your business. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Franchise Frontier podcast. Here we are to explore the world of business ownership, unlocking keys to success while uncovering common pitfalls to avoid. Today, we're excited to welcome Azeem Niazi, owner of Bumble Bee Blinds, Northeast Indianapolis. We're excited to have you, and we're ready to dive in and see some of your insights you could give to our listeners. So, Azeem, thank you.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
So, as we look back and we talk about your journey, when you think about your journey, kind of tell us a little bit, what inspired you to become a business owner?
You know, I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit, and after spending several years in the corporate leadership, I always wanted to build something of my own that could go beyond me and make a tangible impact locally. You know, I chose Bumblebee Blinds because it combines a proven system with the flexibility to run the business my way. And then I also saw demand in the market for custom window treatments. And I had a couple of competitors come over to my home and do kind of consultation with me. And I clearly saw the gaps in the service that I knew we could fill with a great customer care and streamlined process.
Yeah, you touch on it. You touch on a major factor right off the jump. So I appreciate that. When you talk about making an impact in your community and your business itself could push the community, I think that's a major part of business ownership. So when you talk about window coverings, obviously I would imagine you've never been in the window covering space before. Tell us a little bit about your background a little bit, and then how you felt like it transitioned to window coverings.
You know, I spent actually a tremendous amount of time in corporate America. I was in high-tech industry for 23 years. So, like you said, it was not relevant to the Windows treatment industry, but my main criteria there was to open a business and be a business owner. And I had a good fortune of running another business very successfully. My wife primarily runs it. For 15 years, she's been running it, and that was very successful. That gave me the background to kind of undertake a new business opportunity. And Windows treatment just seemed like an opportunity where it won't be very complex from what I was thinking when I was evaluating. And I did not want it to do something which was very compliance heavy. And Windows treatment definitely is the industry where there are obviously compliances, but not like a healthcare industry or other industries like that.
Okay, that's incredible. So when you look at after you've started your business, can you walk us through the beginning to kind of where you are today, and maybe touch on a little bit about what were some of the biggest surprises and or challenges that you overcame?
Yeah, that's a great question. We officially opened in October 2023, and first year, like anything, was a whirlwind. I was surprised by how quickly we could generate the leads through targeted marketing, but at the same time, how much time it takes to fine-tune operations. Our processes were not very streamlined. There were gaps in terms of how we used to conduct our measurements and everything along those lines. And not least, but the most important thing there was hiring the right people, and not just hiring them, training them, and building a reliable network of installers were some of my biggest challenges early on. And the learning curve was steep, I will have to tell you. But at the same time, every challenge taught me how to adapt faster and keep the business moving forward.
Obviously, when we're talking about any business or any sort of, especially home service industry, sometimes while the training can be high level, the experience can be high level, there's a lot to be said for doing it yourself or going through that exact scenario yourself, and then how you adapt to it as the business owner, and how it makes sense in your brain of how to fix this, measure that, or whatever it might be. So I would imagine that in the beginning, it is a very steep climb, but it sounds like you're doing a good job of getting through that. And like you said, building the team. building a team that follows with what you're looking for as a business owner, as well as following the same types of guidance that you want to have for your business. So I commend you on that. When you talk about a typical day in a life as a business owner, what part of the job do you find the most rewarding? And what's one of them that really keeps you on your toes?
In the business, as most business owners would tell you, no 2 days are the same. Some mornings I find myself reviewing the sales numbers, and then at other times I'm reviewing the marketing campaigns, and some days I'm just out meeting the customers and just walking through the installs. For as far as the most rewarding part, it's really seeing a customer's face light up when we transform their space. What keeps me on my toes is really balancing schedules, right? Between sales consultation, supplier timelines, subcontract availability. Timing is everything. We got to stay ahead of the game, and that's some of the things we try to do well as part of Bumblebee Blind.
Yeah, my next question to you was actually, you touched on it a little bit, was when transitioning from the corporate world to now being very customer facing, how much have you enjoyed that, and how much has it gotten you out of your shell, and gotten you back to being able to, just use your personality in being a business owner?
Yeah, I mean, look, balancing working in the business, and working on the business or working in the business, it's always a constant juggling act. In the early days, I was deep in day-to-day operations, and now with the GM support and the support staff in place, I can step back more often to work on strategy and the partnerships and the growth initiatives. I set aside times, blocks every week to focus solely on working on the business, and that has really kind of helped me think more strategically and uplift the business where initial days I could not do that. And what that really means is to what your question was, right? Like spending time with the customer, focusing on really understanding the customer needs and beating all the competitors based on primarily the service. My philosophy, I tell my team all the time, is for us to get a 5-star review. And if we focus on getting a 5-star review, everything else will take care of itself. That means you are meeting customer expectation. Not only meeting it, you're exceeding it. And you're leaving a good impression where they can send you more customers by referrals and their friends and the family. And the word goes out in the local market, the word goes out very, very quickly. And so this aspect, I cannot like overemphasize how important it is as an owner to talk to your customers directly and be quick from the customer service aspect. Like make sure they feel heard, make sure they feel taken care of. And that is definitely, I mean, you do that in the corporate world as well, but as a small business owner, that becomes all the more important and put a lot of emphasis on it.
Yeah, that's incredible insight. So for you, is this a family operation? Is this a you operation? Talk to me about the structure in which you've built out from the beginning. A little bit about maybe the upper level of what your goal was, what your vision was for the company long term. In terms of, I wanted to build something with my family or for my family, and then talk about the team that you built out.
Yeah, so we started out where my wife was also helping me. We were all hands on deck kind of approach. Everybody was working, everybody was a salesperson, everybody was everything, right? And but fortunately, along the way, as I've hired staff and trained them, and we've learned that together, uh, it has gotten to a point where it's primarily just myself who's working on the business, and hiring is the most, I would say, challenging aspect. It's not hiring, but hiring the right people. Team is everything. The businesses succeed or fail depending on who your team is, who you've hired, who are the people who are working with you, and how do you uplift them and how do you train them is what makes a difference between a successful business or not very successful business. If you go to the marketplace and you try to hire people, more or less you will find similar people. You want to hire a person who has an open mind and they are open to learning. You're not going to find a perfect installer, or you're not going to find a perfect sales design consultant. What you make of them, what you teach them is what's going to make a difference in the long run. And I would say, like, yeah, I had my challenges up front in terms of hiring, and I went through some people, which is very normal for any business. For any business that you start, you will have those challenges. But then along the way, I found people I felt, even though they would make mistakes in the beginning, but I felt they are for the long term. And if you invested them and you persist with them and you give them a long enough time and you provide them space to fail, when they fail, they learn. So I never call it fail. It's always a lesson learned out of anything you do. Then they become, down the road, a very good employees for you. And that's exactly what happened for me. And then I also, along the way, learned like how to hire the right kind of people, what characteristics to look for when you're hiring the people. Initially, we were just looking for, hey, anyone who has been in the windows treatment industry would work, right? And that is not it. It is not an absolute requirement that you hire a person who has spent time in the industry. Initially, maybe it's more important, but down the road, when as an owner, you've learned those skills, you'll understand the industry, then you can pretty much bring anyone with the right attitude. Anyone with the right attitude can succeed with this franchise because the system is in place. The processes are in place. You just have to follow them and you just have to make sure that you cultivate a culture of learning in your employees and they continuously learn.
Yeah, I would imagine as you look at it now, obviously some of the things that you've went through have made you a better owner, better boss, whatever that might be in terms of hiring the right people. But it sounds to me like as you've worked through it, it becomes more of a higher character, train the skill, especially as the skill base is how you see it, right? Everybody is different, and it's how you see the customer journey as the business owner, how you want to portray the customer journey from your seat, and definitely that has to be trained because not everyone's going to understand that from the start. So that's incredible insight. So as you look back, if you were talking to somebody, giving someone advice on becoming a business owner, what questions should they ask before taking the leap?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, that is definitely, you need to, one thing I learned in this business up front, and that would be true for any business, by the way, would be you got to come in the business with an attitude of rolling your sleeves up. If you are dependent 100% on your employees and you as an owner yourself don't understand the business, then it's very easy for you to fall in a trap of like, hey, I'm setting these expectations with my employees, but they're not meeting them. And there is no employee in the market that person does not exist that you go to market and find that who's just going to come in and make the whole business work. You have to understand like, hey, I am the business owner and I need to be the person who needs to drive this train, who needs to drive this forward. That expectation for yourself, you have to tell yourself like, look, I'm going to start this business. That means I'm going to have to invest time in this business myself, roll up my sleeves, understand all the intricacies of the business. And then for sure down the road, look, I'm at a point in this business, even though I'm only like year and a half, close to 2 years into the business, but I'm very comfortable now. I am nowhere close to spending the time I used to be spending working in the business now that I used to be doing it. Now I work primarily on the business, which means like growing the partnerships, right? Working with the interior designers, working with the realtors, working with the builders. That is where I needed to be spending my time. But initially, for the first 3 months, for a lesson learned for me, I wasn't spending as much time learning the business. I was just hoping that things will just work. And that is one thing you have to ask yourself, hey, am I committed to investing my personal time into the business? Am I going to be taking ownership of this business as if I'm the person who's running the business? There's a difference between having what they call it, semi-automated or fully automated business, and in the beginning, yes, you can make it a semi-automated and you can make it fully automated, but you have to upfront invest time in the business to get yourself in a position so you can do that down the road. And those were the things I think you should always ask yourself, like, hey, can I invest my time into this business? Can I spend hours? Because that is a practical reality. After making an investment, you want to recoup your investment and then you want to grow the business and make it an asset for you down the road, which you can count on. You can either sell it or you can continue to run it depending on what your priorities are.
Again, another great point. I think it's important, as you say, to understand that it doesn't matter what business it is. In the beginning, it's essential that you learn as much about the business as you possibly can, working with the brand team, going out and doing things by yourself, etc., etc. Because The only way for you to successfully work on the business is understand the business from soup to nuts. Totally understand the business. So that way, when you know so many things about the business, that you can hear not even a complaint, but a concern from a salesperson, understand what that means fully. So that way you're able to address it as the business owner and be able to move forward. That's an incredible insight about no matter what business it is, whether you want it to be semi-involved or whatever. In the very beginning, it is rolling your sleeves up and being all hands on deck. So
Absolutely.
from that perspective, for you, what traits or skills do you think are top notch for to run a successful business?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing was just be determined and persistent. I've seen many business owners, they run out of breath in 3 to 6 months' time, and you have to understand those 3 to 6 months are the hardest months in any business. And that is your make or break point. Most people, by the end of 6 months, they're either ready to take off or they're ready to shut down. And the ones I've seen, whoever, it may feel like a tough journey to that point, and it may feel like, oh my God, why did I do this? It's not working out. There are so many negative thoughts that cross your mind. But the people who just stick with it during those tough months and continue to work, they do come up on the other side. And I'm a prime example. When I started, I had a really hard time. I think in the beginning, I did not understand why we are not able to sell, why things are not happening. And I would say the part of that is myself to blame for it because I wasn't investing as much time. I was counting too much on my employees to do everything for me. And that is where it made a big difference for me is by changing my own personal attitude and rolling up my own sleeves to get engaged in the business started leading to good things. And it's really a chain reaction. One good thing leads to another good thing. One good deal lands another good deal. One good partnership land another good partnership. And we had that effect. We gained momentum, we gained steam, and now we are on the other side. So that is exactly kind of how the journey went.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's a lot to be said about that too. There's a lot to be said for understanding that buying a franchise business is a roadmap. It's not an answer, right? Buying a franchise business does not mean that the franchisor is going to run the business for you, but it is a roadmap to success. But you are right. You have to be the one with your feet in the mud a little bit in the very beginning so you can run that business successfully. So hats off to you for making that change, because I know that change is not easy. When you're a business owner and you've been successful like you have been, and then you purchase a franchise, I'm sure in that 6 months to a year, there's times where you say, this isn't what I thought, this isn't what I signed up for. But kudos for you for taking a look in the mirror and saying, okay, wait a minute, how can I, as the business owner, help this business thrive, and then going through momentum and flipping it on its head. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Is there anything looking back, if you had to start over, knowing what you know now, right? If you had to start over, is there anything that you would do differently to prepare for owning a business other than listen to this interview and this podcast?
Great question. Yeah, I would definitely reset my expectations. Like if I were to start ever another business, which I don't feel a need to do so because we've been going down the right direction with this business, is I would reset my own expectations in terms of like, yeah, you can have your employees run it, you can hire a GM and all that stuff is great. Semi-automated or fully automated is all great. It all sounds great. But like I said before, I cannot emphasize how much, like as you as a business owner, how much you would care for your own business and how much time you need to invest up front. I would just tell myself, like, look, if I'm going to do all this again, understand there is an effort involved from your perspective in the beginning to make it successful. And that would be a number one lesson I would call out.
Can I ask you, in that time where you've seen the transition to success, have you felt more gratitude towards it because of your involvement, right? So you also feel as if I'm not, like, yes, I'm the business owner, but we've done this. Our team has done this. And have you felt more gratitude toward the business since diving in?
100%. I feel like I can even relate so much better with my employees because I've been through those challenges with them. Before, when I was not engaged, they would tell me the challenges, and there would be times when I would be like, yeah, that should really not be a challenge, but it truly is a challenge. You can really understand, like you said, when you have your feet in the mud every step of the way, you really understand their challenges and you will be much better equipped to solve for those challenges for your employees to set them up for success. That's why it's incredibly important upfront for you as a business owner to invest time in the business, in the nuts and the bolts of a business. And that is where a lot of people make this mistake. They feel like I'm just going to go buy this franchise business and everything is going to be done. It's not done for you. Like you said, it's a roadmap to success. Now, the roadmap to success, you have to understand you are still a driver of that roadmap to success. You can't hire somebody from the street and expect them to drive that to success. You need to set up the processes, you need to set it up, and there will be a time ultimately where, yes, yeah, you will be in Bahamas and your employees will be running it. But that's not day one, that's down the road. So while that's the dream and that's where we are all after, but yeah, you will get there. You will definitely get there, but just not on day one. You got to put your good solid 6 months into it.
Do you feel like while also understanding the challenges, it has also brought you down to a level to where you celebrate the little successes more with your employees? Because while from the outside looking in, it might be something very minimal, but you know the work that's went into it or the challenge that it could be from now being a part of the business. So now as the business owner, you celebrate those successes with your employees, which probably makes them feel great about it.
Absolutely. Every time, small or big, every time my, let's say, design consultant makes a sale, I congratulate them. I said, congratulations, great job, every single time. And they, even if it's like a small size deal, regardless of the number, sale is a sale is a sale. It's a dollar in versus a dollar out. I congratulate them. Even like a process improvement, I congratulate them. And at the same time, we do the team lunches, we do the team dinners. You gotta create an atmosphere where your team feels a part of it. You gotta give them ownership of the business. You gotta make them the owner of the business. You cannot be an owner by yourself because you cannot do everything. So you gotta learn how to delegate, number one. Number two, make them feel part of this roadmap, this journey that you are on, and have something in it for them in terms of their gratitude, in terms of their sense of accomplishment. Make them feel good about it. That's how you're gonna inspire them to achieve the level that you wanna go to as a business owner.
There's a ton to be said for creating an environment where employees can go out and thrive without fear of failure. Because
100%.
again, to your point, I would imagine there's as much learned from a non-sale as there is from a sale. How do we
100%.
how do we make a process improvement? Are we saying something correctly? Do we need to rethink the way we say this? Or is our price point correct? Whatever that might be, there's so much information that can be gathered on every sales appointment, every sales phone call, etc. And then to be able to be an employee where when I go on the sales appointment and I don't close the deal for whatever reason, I don't go back to my car thinking, man, I can't keep doing this. You would feel that pressure build. So the next appointment is not nearly as comfortable because now the pressure is built. It sounds like with the environment that you've created, you're telling them, hey, we're in it together. And if there's something that needs to be improved, tell me and let's improve it together. But at the same time, it gives them ownership of the process and it makes the whole thing much more comfortable experience, I would assume.
100%. And I'll just say one more thing is like you said, there is always a learning. There is a learning when you don't make a sale, and you are not going to make the sale 100% of the time due to a variety of reasons. And the key thing there is, like you said, what did we learn out of that? Hey, is that we were not able to articulate the value proposition? Are there other reasons? There is a price reason. Is the customer just not ready to make a decision right now because they're too far out, maybe in terms of when they will complete the build of the house? Or there could be any number of reasons where not all the decisions maker were there. So then that's a lesson learned. Like, hey, would we want to do this again if the decision makers are not there and make 3 appointments versus one and ask upfront from the customer, hey, let's find a time where all the decisions are available. So you can do one consult close, one sale call close versus going there 3 times, which is more investment of time from the customer perspective as well. and then it does not really put you in the right light from the customer spend. Like you spend enormous amounts of time, and then you're going back, and the customer gets tired of you as well. So there are learnings every single time that you gotta count on and just continue to build from those learnings. And the team should feel absolutely, I mean, there needs to be a culture of learning and not a fear of failure. There will be, I learn something new every single day from, from any number of people. So that's the kind of culture we try to create and maintain.
That sounds like a great environment to work in. So let's talk first about when you decided to purchase the business and went through onboarding. Any tips or tricks that you would have liked to have known or paid more attention to in the initial part of onboarding? And then the second part, as you came to Academy, same question.
Yeah, I think in general, in the initial part, it's again comes down to, for me, the biggest thing was just understanding what goes into the business and how to hire for it. So those are the things I should have probably or could have, looking at the hindsight, how to hire people, and then what kind of involvement I need to make personally from my own standpoint, I would have done slightly differently. And then from onboarding standpoint, from the academy standpoint, it was just a learning a little bit more about, again, maybe put a little more focus on the sales tactics and learning a little bit more about the sales and outreach, marketing campaigns, and those kind of things could have helped. Those things, I mean, not that we were not doing it, but we could have done more effectively from my perspective had I spent a little bit more focus on it. At that time, my mind was just on checking the boxes. Hey, have we done this? So this is a long list of checklists, check, 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 versus sitting down and really thinking through what needs to be done the right way.
Yeah, I mean, I actually helped create those onboarding tasks a long time ago. And so I think there's a lot to be said for, again, it's not just checking the box, it's checking the box almost twofold. Did you do the task? Yes. Do you understand it? Yes
Right.
or no? And there's some things that I think that sometimes when we get in those processes, we're just trying to get it done. We just want to get going. But I also think, to your point that you made earlier, there's some of that stuff where it might differ in Indianapolis than it differs in Houston, Texas. And it might differ in the way that Dave does it versus the way you do it, right? So I think that there is a portion in that first 6 months where some of that stuff is just going to be an adjustment. Perfect world scenario, it'd be great if you could have major parts of your team be able to go through that stuff together, but you haven't even really decided who those people are going to be yet. To your point, the fact that you guys have kind of taken on yourself, especially a more of a teacher role where, hey, this is the way that I see it. This is the way that I would like it to be done for our customer experience. I'm open to any suggestions and options or those type of things. But all in all, as a company, understand that our number one goal is to provide great service and have a great customer service. So as long as it involves that, then you're all for it.
100%. It's really building a relationship with a customer where you come across as a trusted advisor. And how do you earn that trust from a customer? And there is a lot that goes into that. And it starts with making the customer feel truly that you care. You're here to solve a problem for them. Yeah, we have sales, we have all those things in the back of our mind. But ultimately, if you focus on solving their problem in the utmost manner where they feel like they're taken care of and they're heard, then everything else just follows suit. Everything else falls in place. And that is a problem I've seen some people run into where they either go in a too aggressive fashion and they have sales on their mind and they're not really listening to what customer is trying to tell them. They're just like, hey, look at this product, I can do this. And those times the customer clearly sees through it. They're like, I'm feeling rushed. I'm feeling like I've not been heard on what I'm telling you. And this is where like I said, if you lead with, I'm here to get a 5-star review, which really means I'm going to meet and exceed all your expectations. If you have that philosophy in the back of your mind, everything else will take care of it. That's been our belief that has paid off. And that's been something I've been consistently cultivating in our team culture.
Not only are you going to meet all their expectations, but you're going to meet their expectations on their timeline. so they
100.
feel comfortable and they don't feel stressed and they don't feel rushed. I think that's an invaluable point where there's something to be said for obviously driving the ball down the field per se, but at the same time also having empathy for the customer to let them feel like they understand. If they want to see a zebra shade instead of something else, like that's okay, right? Let them see that so they can make their best educated decision. So that's also a really really good point. You know, jumping back just for a quick second, when you decided to look at a franchise business or business ownership in general, were there a few factors or what was it that pushed you toward home service or made you want to be in home service? And what other options did you kind of look at before deciding to be in the home service space?
Yeah, I did look at other options as well. Like I had actually a franchise business consultant work with me, and she did a profile personality assessment and all that stuff, and she brought some opportunities together. But this one just stood out for me. The blinds business, the windows treatment, it seemed like a cleaner business to me from my perspective, coming from my background, and it just felt like where we can quickly figure out the processes and do things in a way that I wanted to do from my perspective. And then there was another opportunity, actually, another competitor in the same Windows treatment industry, which was brought to table for me with a much smaller territory, but asking for quite a bit more. And when the Bumblebee Blinds opportunity came along, they had just the perfect location available, the location where I live in. And with the city where we live in is one of the nicer parts of the town, where we had a customer audience which is a perfect fit for the Windows treatment industry. So those were some of the decisions which continue to drove me in that direction. And I felt if I put the right kind of focus and energy on it, we could easily, make the revenue that this guy in a small location with one territory, and I have large territories here, I could meet and exceed, spending half the money that he spent and still meet and exceed with the Bumblebee Brinds. And, the numbers he had, I was very close to his numbers year one. And year one is supposed to be a year of learning. So
Right.
that even confirms, in hindsight, also confirms my conviction that we can, with the Bumblebee Blind, with the right kind of system, with the right kind of support from the franchisor, meet and exceed those expectations for myself.
Did you notice when you did meet with your franchise consultant and you started to dive into home service in general, especially Bumblebee? Was there anything that was like kind of just eye opening? I know sometimes it's about demand, sometimes it's about margins, whatever that might be. Not to be specific, but I know sometimes, myself included, we walk around homes, we buy a house, we've lived in a house, we look at the stove, we don't look at the window coverings. So to realize that there is a market for it. And there's also a huge pocket of people that they they live in their house, they enjoy where they live, they don't want to move, but at the same time they'd like to just maybe have an upgrade of sorts. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be a full remodel of a kitchen or something to that extent. New window coverings could change the whole dynamic of a home. And so there's also that pocket of people as well to go, oh, I never thought about the ability to beautify my house and change the view just by doing something like window coverings.
I've one thing that completely, I mean, after being in this business for close to 2 years now, completely surprised me. Where in the beginning, people were talking about in the home services industry, need versus want. And they say, hey, but this is a want business. It's not a need business. And you'll be surprised to hear this. I have fewer new home customers versus the existing home customers. So I have more want customers than the need. You need blinds when you move into a house, but I have more want customers in my business. If you look at my numbers, than the need. So this, I would say, charade of like, hey, this is just not a want business is not going to thrive or survive is just not true. That's not been my experience. And that definitely surprised me. Like, wow, so I thought going into it, majority of my customers will be new homeowners, but that was not to be. A lot of people, they every 6, 7, 8 years, they want to change. Even 5 years, they want to change. My own customer, even after a year and a half, has called me in not to change the existing blind, but to add on to the home. They want to continue to add on. If you've done a good job, they will call you back. And so that was definitely one of the surprises for me is like, wow, look, I have so many want customers. They want it. And sometimes, especially in times like these when the interest rates are high and all of those things, people are not investing in new homes. They are redesigning their existing homes and transforming their space. So it feels like a different space and it looks like a different space. And that is going to be recession proof anyways, because now you're in the same home. The cost of doing a renovation versus building a new home is astronomically different.
I also think that, window coverings, without even thinking about it, window coverings is a very visual business. So, especially now with the Instagram, the social media, the Pinterest, all these things that you see, there are these homes that are being built, whether they be new builds or not, that have incredible window coverings. And the fact that people are seeing that as they're scrolling at night draws attention to the fact that, oh, I've never seen that before, or I didn't know that was a possibility, to then even initiate a phone call with you, and then you be able to show them, well, here's all the options you could have, interior, exterior, whatever that might be. I think people probably are blown away by the fact that we've thought that we needed to change this whole room, but these coverings or this outdoor covering space changes to exactly what we wanted it to be.
I have a lot of customers who just call me and they're just struggling to visualize what the transformed space will look like. And we have some tools we can use to kind of have them visualize ahead of time. But when it is transformed, it's just like, wow, this looks so nice. We are loving our Windows treatment. We're enjoying our Windows treatment. One more thing I'll say here is like, and that may not be entirely relevant to the point we were making, but the ticket size for us, I mean, the amount of dollars people are willing to invest. That was another, going back to your earlier question, was there a shock or a surprise? Or they just spend like thousands and thousands of dollars on the Windows treatment without flinching, right? That just amazed me. Like, wow, okay. They could buy a car for this price. They did go forward and do it.
Sometimes when you're talking about the beautification of a home or making my home more homey,
Homie.
sometimes there's not a price that somebody's thinking this is far more reasonable than buying a new home. But yeah, to your point, that's why there's with the visualizer tools and those type of things. But it's also so important for you and your social media team or your people that work for you to take photographs of the things that you guys have done and all the things that you have had the opportunity to do in other homes to showcase to people, look, we've done this, we've showed this, etc. So I think that that's a good job on that. So when you talk about you and your business and the long-term business, what's next? Do you see yourself scaling into more territory? Do you see yourself scaling into more locations? What's the perfect idea for you?
In the short term, I'm focused on perfecting our current operations, right? Like tightening our processes, improving our close rates, increasing average ticket size. But I do ultimately have an eye on scaling to additional territories once we have maximized our potential here. And, that's kind of how I think about it.
Well, good. I think that, based on the things that we've talked about, you will be expanding soon based on your team and your goals and the way that you're doing things. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Azeem, for being on the show today. I think you've given some incredible insight for people that are possibly looking into business ownership, or even some people that are currently in our networks of saying, hey, here's an opportunity for you to look in the mirror a little bit, roll up your sleeves, get your feet in the mud, and I think you'll find that you feel a lot more gratitude toward the business as you move forward. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being on the show, and I look forward to seeing your success.
Pleasure to be here, Dave. Thanks for having me.